Alright guys, so now that Ash is stepping down as protagonist, along with not only a presumably finalized roster... Okay, this intro's getting old. So, I already did Kanto, and then I did Johto, and now I'm in the mood to do some Hoenn. And like last time, I don't want to drag this out, so let's get straight to the rules. The first being that this is an alternate universe scenario. This just means it gives me an excuse to change or ignore stuff in the main canon. The second is that we're limiting the starters to 1 per team, but that doesn't matter this time. The last being that character restrictions are free. This allows me to pretty much evolve anyone without pride and such being in the way. But that's pretty much the rules. But one last final thing is regarding this series. Personally, my own ambitions will guide me until Ash's Sinnoh team is finished. After that, I'll be putting this into semi-retirement. I don't know when I'll continue, but that's that. There's no point stalling any longer though, so let's get started.
Pokemon, get to the
Now it's roundup time, so listen up my friends. The first pick will be going to Torko. To get the characteristics out the way, we all know very well that this turtle is one of the most vibrant personalities in Ash's roster. His emotional teary-eyed character is definitely going to be the one that stands out. Now, let's get to something to keep note of later on. The first time I focused on a Pokemon's unique battle capabilities. The second time I focused on their win-loss ratio and whether or not they sucked. This time I'll mix both. So, for its actual skill, Torko absolutely sucked. Like, honestly, it's surprising that for the 100 plus episodes, Torko only beat 2 Pokemon, and that's from relevant trainers. Even its best performance sort of becomes invalid when he still lost nonetheless, and even in the next series onward it got one-tapped. Anyways though, let's move on to the next topic, its battle characteristics. All it really does is spit out fire moves along with utilizing its weight and defense, but as you know, it works very little. But at least it was more unique than the rest of Ash's main Hoenn team. And despite being somewhat of a loser, Torko's style and emotions back that up, earning him that spot. And then for the second guy, let's do something a little bit more improvised. That's mainly because I'm forced due to the lack of actual options. The second pick will be Exploud. What birthed this idea is that I feel Ash would go well with a Berserker type, one that usually keeps his trait while being obedient at the same time. The best example we could have had was Primeape, but it sorta humbles down after listening. This time I want to maintain it, and quick mention is that almost everything talked about here is just gonna rip off from that one Exploud episode. Without stalling though, let's get straight to the battle characteristics and potential skill. First off, I really want this guy to be a powerhouse. Not exactly an ace level, but extremely close. Similar to say Snorlax. With a unique capability, it'll focus on special attacks, mainly mouth beams. But for moveset variety, let's give him Stomp for physical approaches. But you know how it battles now. Next up is to the character. Like I said, we'll just steal from that X-Bot episode. In this alternate universe, Ash catches it as a Whismur. However, it starts off as a crybaby, but when it evolves, it becomes more bodacious. And then, as scripted from the episode, it'll eventually become more angry and disobedient when it becomes Exploud. However, through Ash's influence, it'll eventually be set straight. And like said earlier, it'll keep its rowdy nature. But with all of that, I can confidently say that Exploud could be a very cool and interesting asset to this team. But for the third pick now, we'll be going to Manectric. Once again, this will be an improvised slot, and unfortunately that means one of Ash's Hoenn Pokemon will be booted out here, so sorry in advance. And if you're bored of these random made-up slots, then don't worry. We'll be back on track until the end afterwards. So first thing about Manectric is that I should mention its character. The route I want to take here is a man's best friend approach, pretty much being the loyal and dedicated member of the team. If anything, I'd say he could be a Hoenn version of Surfetch'd. But since we got that out the way, let's get to his battle characteristics and skill. In terms of skill, it could be rather okay. It can win some and it can lose some. That's pretty much it. And then for its battle characteristics, of course it'll use electric moves like Thunderbolt, along with moves befitting of a dog like Howl or Scratch. Look, it's a dog, you pretty much get the gist of it. And with all of those traits, I feel like Manectric can fit right in. And now on to the last 3, which will be some familiar territory. The fourth pick will be Crawdon. Initially labeled the roughneck of the sea, Corphish was rather audacious. Definitely the hot-blooded type, but I guess naive too. I honestly feel that this tough guy persona makes up for the lack of unique battle style, which is signaturized by
big, meaty claws!
But what also makes up for that is Corfish's surprisingly good fighting capability. From Gems, League, and even Battle Frontier battles, Corfish was a demon. But between you and me, let's ignore his last 2 losses against Nurse Joy and Misty. I also wanted to evolve Corfish into Crawdon because I mostly want everyone to be fully evolved, but I also wanted to add a little gag that its intimidating design might scare off smaller Pokemon along Ash's journey. I don't know. But at the end of the day, Crawdon is still the same old Corfish deep down. All in all, I feel like all of these traits could make Crawdon a perfect place for this team. And now we're getting to the main stars. The 5th member will be going to the legendary Swellow. Now, let's be real, this guy was a monster throughout Advanced Generation. We don't talk about that device fight though, but honestly, every battle feat I mentioned for Crawdon applies here as well. But even better, even the Battle Frontier outperforms someone who was acclaimed to be one of Ash's strongest Pokemon back in the old days. But many might not know or remember because Advanced Generation wasn't as watched as I thought it was. But seriously, Swellow is a sleeper. I'd even argue that Swellow was the strongest Hoenn Pokemon Ash had back when he traveled that region, even more than Grovyle. Potential bias aside though, there's no doubt that Swellow is one of the top fighters on this team. Certain traits Swellow carries into battle would be its speed and power, but notably its astonishing amount of endurance as well. For its personality, Swellow is very gutsy, wearing its determination on its sleeve. And last thing is that in his alternate canon scenario, I'd give Swellow the ability Guts, because like I said, it's pretty gutsy. But with that, Swellow is the glass slipper of this team. But now that we're 5 months down, we reached the apex. The 6th and final member of this team is Skeptal. No other starter under any other circumstance I saw would be a good fit. Skeptal on the other hand goes above and beyond for being one of the most unique aces in the main canon. So unique that I couldn't even waste the opportunity. His character still stands out for being the cool and collected type, and what adds to the flavor is Skeptal's outstanding speed, from maneuvering to swooping in for the kill. That's pretty cool if I do say so myself. This usually was accomplished with his signature move, Leaf Blade. And despite its fighting results being less impressive compared to his peers in the main canon, his feats and performances are definitely the best out of them, especially outperforming of the likes of the legendary Swellow when they were in the same battles. I'm sort of glad that came to be actually, so that Skeptal can earn his placement as the top dog on this team. But with all of those done, I can proudly say Skeptal is deserving on this team. Now, the gang's all here, To summarize the slots, we got the emotional Torko, the wrathful Explode, the loyal Manectric, the audacious Crawdon, the gutsy Swellow, and the ever so cool Skeptal. Quick note is that I want to pay respect for Glalie. He definitely was one of my favorite members in Ash's real Hoenn team. It's just that I really appreciate how this champion team came out. As usual, I don't make these from a competitive standpoint, just from the anime's influence. And honestly, I don't know how to end these things proper, so I'll get one last thing. Like said in the beginning, I'll move on from this series after Sinnoh. Whether or not I'll do the next regions are up to the future, but yeah, that's pretty much all I got for now. Yep.